This is a story about Allatu, a woman that will discover on her journey through life that she is much more than a woman. Allatu was a natural beauty, gorgeous, curvy, bodacious, pretty brown skin, almond shaped eyes, juicy lips, very intelligent, wise, caring, loving, just overall beautiful inside out. When you see her, she'll put you in the mind of a Instagram model, but all natural. No work done, no makeup, no weaves, just her. Just beautiful. Allatu enjoyed making love a lot. Allatu was too young to fully understand the power of making love, and that there was an extremely powerful force that was taking place during this sacred energy exchange. We're going to follow Allatu on her journey to discovering and unearthing the enchanted garden that was within her own being, and the mistakes that she made, and the power that she gave away along the way. When Allatu was a lot younger, she had some experiences that, let's just say, they were learning experiences for her. But even back then, she knew that she enjoyed making love a lot. One day, one of her friends, Bam, came to her and told her about her boyfriend, Chris, and how he had a friend named Anthony. And they had a crew, a little group of boys that competed with each other to see who can orally pleasure their girlfriend the best. Allatu had never had this experience, so she was extremely intrigued. So she told Bam to give Anthony her number so that they can talk. They talked every day for hours, laughing and giggling, having talk about making love and what they like and dislike. Allatu didn't have a lot of experience at this time, but she knew fairly well at this point what she liked and disliked. But she wasn't shy about making love. Anthony explained to her how well endowed he was, and that made her even more intrigued because she had never had anyone that was this large before. Eventually, the time came for them to meet up, and they did. Bam and Chris dipped off and did what they did, and Allatu and Anthony went to his room. Allatu was not impressed with the oral pleasure. She thought to herself, what's the big fuss about all this? Clearly, penetration is much better than this. Why do women go so crazy about it? She didn't understand it. Because quite frankly, Anthony was not that good at it. And he probably wasn't that good at it because, well, we'll get to that. So, Allatu, being outspoken and direct as she is, instructed Anthony to stop. Let's just move on. And he asked her, well, are you not enjoying it? And Allatu was honest and told him not that much. I much rather have penetration. Anthony, he understood the assignment. a little bit hurt to his ego, a little blow to his ego, but he understood that it wasn't for everybody. And it was her first time. She didn't really know what to expect. And what she did expect was not that. So it was okay. When Anthony proceeded to show her what would be entering her portal, it did make Allatu very nervous. Palms sweating, gulp in her throat, heart racing. She looked at Anthony in disbelief. He proceeded to put the protection on that barely fit. And when I say barely, I mean like halfway. Like, honestly, Allatu was really taken aback. Anthony proceeded to make love to Allatu, but it wouldn't fit. Neither was really enjoying the situation at this point. But Allatu had an idea that maybe she should take control. And so she did. She straddled Anthony and proceeded to make it work. And it was working better than it was when he was trying, because she knew how much she can take. She knew the pace that was comfortable for her. So she proceeded. And the more she proceeded, the more excited she got. The more excited she got, the faster she went. She got lost in the moment, lost in the ecstasy. And before you knew it, Anthony was climaxing. He looked up in Allatu's eyes, and tears began to roll down his face. Allatu, not knowing what to do, she got up and thought that she had hurt him. Did I do something wrong? Anthony looked at her. Not at all. She didn't know what to think or what to say. And she didn't want to question him further because she didn't want to embarrass him. So she let it go. But in the back of her mind, she was thinking about that. And how her loving was so good that it made him cry. That stuck with her for a while. And even as an adult, she ran back into him years and years later. And one of the things that he said to her was that the experience that he had with her changed the way he looked at sacred energy, changed for the rest of his life. That one encounter, and that was the only encounter that they had. After that, that was it for them. They never did anything else again. Allatu moved forward, and then she met her first love, Trigger. Trigger was a street guy, and Allatu, she was so in love with him. She thought that was the end all be all, that it would be nobody else after him. That was it. She was going to marry him, be his wife, have his children, all of the above. But I repeat, Trigger was a street dude. So he had his mindset on having a main woman and several others in the wings. Allatu was not for this at all. So their relationship turned very toxic. Because Allatu couldn't understand How much more could you want? How greedy could you be? I'm making love to you 3 times a day. And on the weekends, at least once. When do you have time? She fought him a lot due to this. Never any other women, because they wasn't obligated to her. She felt like he was. Not overstanding that her attacking him was not going to change anything. It wasn't going to make him do anything different than what he was doing. Nothing that she would have done would have made him do anything different than what he was doing. But she didn't understand it. Fast forward to the end of the 3 years that they were together. He met someone else. And this someone was actually giving him everything that he wanted. She was orally pleasing him, which Allatu did not do at that time. She let him make love to her friends, which Allatu didn't want him messing with anyone but her. So that was completely out. He could come and go as he pleased, be with whatever he want to be with, and this girl didn't have anything to say about it. As a matter of fact, she knew about Allatu. And she told Allatu that she knew about her. And that she knew that Trigger loved Allatu, but he was just tired of fighting with Allatu. Allatu was hurt by this. She wanted Trigger to come back and just be with her. She thought that if she waited and showed him how good of a woman that she was and that she was loyal, that he would pick her over all other women. Yes, Allatu was a pick-me in that moment. It went from 2 days a week to a whole week to a whole month. He would literally stay gone for a month at a time, and it broke Allatu's heart. One particular month, he came back. Allatu was actually out. She would go through the process over the past several months of trying to get over him, and then he'll pop back up. Try to get over him, then he'll pop back up. This particular time, Allatu was just like, I'm through. I'm done with him. Not anymore. I'm done. So she was out and she was enjoying herself, because any other time she'd be sick, just sick without him. Not want to do anything or go anywhere with anyone. But this particular time, she just was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit in the house and wait for him to come around. It's the summertime. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to enjoy myself. And so she did. One particular day it was raining. So she came home from where she was at, out enjoying herself, having a good time. And he was sitting on her steps, waiting for her in the rain, drenching wet. Allatu started to tell him just leave, but she felt bad because he was sitting out there just soaking wet, waiting on her. She invited him in and gave him some clothes to change himself and dry off. And she told him, I'm not going to do anything with you because every time I do it, you disappear. So they did chill and relaxed, and he ended up leaving, and to her surprise, he came back the next day. So when he came back, she was happy. She thought this was a positive step in the right direction. And so, of course, he began to ask her, could they make love? She was really skeptical and told him that, she didn't really want to, that maybe they should wait until he come back and then she'll know it's real. Somehow he convinced her that it was real, that he was going to come back. And in her foolishness, she believed it, even though she sat there and literally cried and begged him, please don't go back. At least if you go back, don't stay gone so long. She expressed her feelings as deeply and as honestly as she could, letting him know that it hurt when he was away like that and she felt lonely. And he nodded as if he understood what she was saying. With tears in her eyes, she pleaded with him to not go back. And he reassured her in that moment that he wouldn't. So they continued and they made love. When he left, he was going to see his probation officer, and he would come back once a month for that. But he told her he wasn't going back at this moment. He was going to come back to see her before he went back to where he was at, because he had to go back to get things and stuff like that and handle business. So she was like, okay, as long as you're going to come back today and I'm going to see you today. He left and she was hopeful. He went and she waited. 3 hours went past, 4 hours went past, 5 hours. No trigger. In her disappointment, she knew that it was over, that she didn't really have a choice but to walk away from this situation. And so for the next couple of weeks, she got it all out her system. She cried. She sat in her sadness. She owned the feelings that she felt. She held herself accountable for her part, for continuously going back on her word that she said she wasn't going to do. The next couple of weeks following that, she went into pouring into herself mode. So now she's doing things that she want to do. She's outside. She's enjoying herself. She's breathing the fresh air. She's trying to not think about him as much, because she know the next time she see him that she really have to stand on what she said. The next 2 weeks go past, and sure enough, it's time for his probation appointment. He comes over and he pretends as though what happened the last time didn't happen. That moment was all she needed to know that she really had to stand on what she said. He tried intimidation. He tried love bombing. He tried sorrow and sadness and guilt. None of it worked. She was serious. If he wanted more pleasure from her, he had to show that he was serious. Not she give him something and then she gotta see. No, he needed to show her this time. And he couldn't. So he left again. This time, she wasn't as hurt as she was. She wished that it wouldn't go that way. He told her he was coming back that time too. But this time, she wasn't counting on it. Hoping that it would happen, but wasn't counting on it. So when he didn't come back, she was okay this time. Moving forward, she ended up meeting a gentleman named Rashid. Rashid, we're going to call him the opener because Rashid had Allatu doing some crazy things. And I can't get into those things on YouTube. That may be something that I extend on Patreon. Go more in depth into the relations of Allatu. Oh, they was spicy. Allatu had some fun. I'm not gonna lie. Allatu did not have many, if any at all, really bad making love sessions. Most experiences that Allatu had was pleasurable, and a lot of that is due to Allatu and her ability to express what she don't and don't want, and to not accept anything less than that. Very vocal, very direct, and so it was very rare, very, very rare that Allatu did not enjoy sacred energy exchange. So she was still somewhat guarded due to the nature of the past relationship that she had with Trigger. She explained these things to Rashid, but Rashid was not hearing it. He did not feel like he should have to suffer because of what the next man did. And he was right. Allatu did overstand that it was not his cross to bear, that it wasn't him that hurt her. She understood that. However, it didn't take away the pain. It didn't take away the point of fact that she was afraid of getting hurt again. One particular evening, they were having a conversation. And Allatu really, let me back up and make this clear before I get into this conversation. Allatu really, really cared about Rashid. He was what she wanted and desired in a man. He was attractive. He was direct. He was a provider. He was caring. He was everything that she sought out in men. It's just she could not get past the hurt. She was afraid to open herself up and fully allow him in. So they were having this conversation, and Rashid had the gift of gab. He wasn't used to hearing no. Like I said again, he was very direct, and for the most part, his directness and his ability to be straightforward, it was just, it allowed him access, and he was clever, allowed him access with women that some other men would not have if they wasn't so slick in their tongue as he was. And not in a bad way, not in a bad way like he was just like running around here lying to everybody and stuff like that, because he could be very honest as well, like extremely honest. But he knew how to get what he wanted. I'll just put it like that. And she liked that because Allatu loved confidence in a man. That was an extreme turn on. A man that was confident in himself and knew how to lead and was not a follower. That was extremely attractive to Allatu. So this conversation was difficult. As they sit and talk, and he explained to her that he just can't do it anymore. He can't keep trying to make up for something another man did. Allatu also explained that she couldn't help how she felt. She didn't want to lie to him. She didn't want to make him think that she could do something or be something that she couldn't in that moment. It wasn't that she wasn't trying. But she understood she just wasn't there yet. And he understood that he was not willing to wait for her to get there because he felt like, I didn't do anything to have to wait. You should just automatically trust me. Oh, she wanted to. She wanted to so bad. But Allatu was very honest, and she did not want to lie to him and give him hope where there wasn't in that moment. She really did not see a way for her to be able to trust him. She just didn't see it. And so they ended the conversation on a note of, well, I guess this is goodbye. Allatu was ready to get up and leave, which she never had a problem with leaving or in the middle of the shadow hour, because she always knew she was protected, so she never worried about being out, in the middle of the shadow hour or anything like that. But him, being a gentleman that he was, did not want her to leave. And he assured her that he wouldn't touch her, that he just wanted her to stay so she didn't have to walk by herself, and he wasn't going to let her walk by herself. He didn't feel like walking. And it was the middle of in the shadow hour, so she understood and she agreed to stay. So the next day, they wake up and she immediately feel a heaviness before she opened her eyes, because she know that this is like the end in her mind. She opened her eyes and there's Rashid staring at her. She wasn't aware of how long he had been awake, but he had definitely been up for a while. And so she looked at him and greeted him, and he greeted her back. And before she could say anything else, he grabbed her and pulled her close to him, hugging her so tight. She just melted in his arms. He proceeded to mount her, missionary style. And before she could say anything else, he penetrated her deeply. Every time she tried to speak a word, he put his finger on her lips as if to tell her hush. He started whispering in her ear, "Please trust me. I'll never hurt you. Don't leave me. I love you." And he whispered things of this nature the entire time that he made love to her. Every time she tried to say anything, he covered her lips or he kissed her to stop her from speaking. He just wanted her to listen. He just wanted to be heard. And so she obliged. They both climaxed at the same time. Her eyes watery, holding back the tears because she felt a relief that she couldn't explain. She had never experienced anything like this, but she had felt a relief. And from that moment forward, without explanation, she did not doubt him again. She trusted him fully. Whatever he said, she trusted that it was the truth. Until the very end, when she found out that he indeed lied to her. He withheld the biggest secret that he could have held from her. And again, I'll go more into that because that's a whole story within itself on Patreon. Needless to say, she walked away from that relationship. Hurt by it, she decided to be celibate. She said, no one is going to get my good loving that can't be honest with me. So I'm done with men for a while. I'm going to focus on myself. And so she did. She focused only on her. She poured the same energy into herself that she gave to Trigger, that she gave to Rashid. She pleasured herself 3 times a day, every single day, and enjoyed it immensely. She didn't even miss intimacy with the man at the moment. Reason being is because she still went on dates. She still saw men. She just wasn't being intimate with them. She withheld that part of herself, and for good reason. Because even though she dated all the men that she dated, it's like it was like blatant to her that they wanted to have relations with her. And she just wasn't with it. She didn't want to give that part of herself up without the full experience. Because without the full experience, she couldn't fully be herself. That's something that she learned from being with Rashid. Something that she learned from being with Trigger. She couldn't fully be herself with Trigger. She made love to Trigger 3 times a day, but that's just all it was. It was just like boom, boom, boom. She trusted Rashid. And because she trusted Rashid, she was able to open up in ways that she has never done with any other man. And it was really because she trusted him like that. And that was really the reason. She loved him and cared for him and all of the things, but it was really because she trusted him. So she allowed herself to go there. That's why it was so devastating for her at the end of that one. She wasn't as hurt as she was with Trigger, but I think that was because it was the first time ever experiencing it. So now she had the experience. She knew how to handle it and cope with it a lot better by the time she got to Rashid. But it still hurt. That celibacy taught her a lot about herself. What she liked, what she don't like. What excites her, what turns her off. Exactly where to go and how to. She knew everything about her body. At least she thought. She'll later discover more. But at that point, she knew a lot. And eventually she was ready to explore everything that she had learned about herself with someone else. We're not going to get into the first person that she was with right after celibacy. We're going to skip ahead to Cain. We're going to call Cain the drainer. She was with Cain for 13 years. They lived together for like 16 or 17, between 16 and 17 years. The reason why she looked at Cain as a drainer is because by the time she got to Cain, so many things had happened. And not just saying relationship wise, but just life in general. So many things had happened that she just wanted to be loved at this point. And she wanted to give love. She wanted somebody to accept her love fully. As intense as it can be at times. She wanted to give it all. And she thought that Cain could handle that. He was a big, strong man, but very insecure. Usually that would be the ultimate turnoff for Allatu. because insecurities, especially those that manifest in a form of jealousy, was a turnoff to Allatu. She didn't enjoy that at all because that told her that the man that she was with didn't trust her. And she knew she was trustworthy. So that bothered her. But with Cain, she wanted to show him because she knew he had been hurt too. She wanted to show him that somebody could love you fully and not do these things to you, that they could not hurt you, that they don't have to be out here messing around with different people and they can just be with just you. You are a beautiful man and powerful and strong. And you deserve an equal counterpart, someone who is equally strong and powerful. All she wanted to do was build him up. But when someone is so insecure within themselves, you cannot build them up. That's an inside job. But Allatu, she didn't fully understand it. At least not in the way that she does now. You can't make someone be insecure by just constantly telling them how great they are. That's something they have to see with themselves. And you shouldn't dim yourself or downplay yourself in order to make them feel good about themselves, because that's temporary. Because the moment that you do anything that makes them feel like you shining, they're going to go back into that mode. You're going to always have to live your life in the shadows dealing with someone who is insecure. Allatu sometimes could be loyal to a fault. So she stayed a lot longer than she should have. Invest in multiple children with Cain, which even more so drained her because a lot of things was placed on her. In motherhood and being a mate to someone who was very insecure, it was a lot. It was a whole lot. They fought a lot. Eventually, it got so bad that it had to end. Allatu did not want their children to continuously see them fighting and bickering and arguing and disrespecting each other. She wanted her children to see a healthy love where they're respecting each other and loving each other and caring for each other. So she had to do what she had to do. She had to break their relationship off. It was for the best. It was for the best for both of them, really. Whether he recognized it for that or not, she knew what it was. In the process of breaking up, it didn't happen immediately. They broke up and they would try again, break up and try again. In the process of one of the times of them breaking up, Allatu would go back to pleasing herself. In one of those moments of pleasing herself, she realized that, well, let's just say something happened that took her by surprise. See, Allatu has a very vivid imagination, extremely vivid imagination. And it was so much to the point where Allatu couldn't achieve climax without even touching herself. So she didn't need to watch things. She had enough things in her mind to use to pleasure herself. One day she decided to imagine someone that she used to have a little crush on, little puppy love when she was younger. And she imagined this person as an adult. And she went to pleasure herself to this person's memory or the thought of this person. But she could not see a clear image. Like, no matter how much she tried to focus in on this person, she just could not see him clearly. So she went on Facebook and looked at a picture of him as an adult, and it's like, okay, this is what I thought he would look like. So she tried again, and still nothing. She could not clearly see him. And so she later realized that he had transcended. He was in a spirit realm. And his heart belonged to someone else. When she first looked, she didn't look for all that. She just needed a picture, an image. So she didn't know. She just wanted an image of somebody that she thought was attractive, that she could, enjoy herself to. Keep in mind these revelations that I'm making, because in part 2, I'm going to go more in depth into how things got real crazy and spiritual, like on levels that Allatu was not aware that it can get like this. But a lot of these things was preparation. She just didn't know it. She didn't see it at the time because she was green. She didn't know. But yeah, she couldn't pleasure herself to Ali. That's his name. His name was Ali. She couldn't pleasure herself to Ali because Ali was no longer in the physical realm. Now, it'd have been something different, perhaps, if she would have went into the spiritual realm herself. But she was really accessing the mental plane at this point. So, yeah, it wasn't going to work. In the process of all of this and her discovering these new aspects of herself and uncovering these new aspects of herself, she started to really crave something different, something more, something unexplainable, otherworldly, mystical. She craved it. And she knew it was out there because she could feel it. She was bored with human relations. She was bored with only physical intimacy and men only being able to meet her at the physical plane. Not even a mental, let alone a spiritual. They were only able to meet her at the physical plane. The root chakra. Maybe at the highest, the sacral. She wanted more. And so she manifested it. She tried to have those experiences with Cain. And Cain was not ready for that experience. He simply told her, I want to have regular making love sessions. Stay tuned for part 2. It gets spicy.
You are chosen.
144,000 chosen trees.
Assured. We are pure alchemists, transmuting your thoughts into gold.
Ariska Gale.
Yes, ask me.
Meet me in the laboratory.